Survivor Specialist Phil and Alexa are back one final time for this Survivor Season 42 finale recap. It was kind of a predictable finale. However, it went down in a pretty interesting way. Happy for Marianne. A lot to get into with this in terms of Marianne, Mike, Jonathan going for the going out at fire, Romeo of all people winning immunity. Who had that
Beautiful.
on their bingo card? Or go if you predicted that was going to happen in this episode, go play the lottery and enjoy your millions. How in the world did that happen? A lot to dissect, a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about this reunion thing that Jeff keeps calling the after show and acting is like a good idea while Romeo and Mike look like they're literally going through mental breakdowns. And that's it. Alexa, what do you think about Marianne as a winner?
I love Marianne as winner. I think Marianne is also a good representative of the season. I feel like there are some seasons where it's like, oh yeah, that person won. But Marianne, I think, is like she totally encapsulates the season. She's really silly. She's the person who said the idol phrase, and it like wasn't weird that she said that phrase. And I think she's a super unique winner. She's unique in the sense that she's the second Black woman to win Survivor, which is absolutely insane. But she's silly. She had the growth arc, and normally like the growth person doesn't win. But Marianne also may have given one of the best tribal council performances, or one of the best answers to a tribal council question. She was so smart in how she showed that idol. I was shocked that she didn't play it, and obviously we'll get to that.
Mm-hmm.
But she so could have easily been like, and looky here.
Yeah.
But instead she used it to show how no matter what combination of who went where, she was going to get to that final three. And it was like a shutting up John Robert kind of answer.
Yeah. It was. And this was, again, I said with Marianne, the thing that was working for her was that she had something nobody else knew about. And it was going to blow their minds. And then it did blow their minds. None of them saw that coming. And I say this, I've said this all throughout the season because we had a massive guy like Jonathan on this season. We had a little guy like Romeo. We had Marianne, who nobody was expecting much from at the beginning of all of this. If you're coming in with people not expecting much from you and you can blow their mind, that is going to surpass you hitting the expectation. If Jonathan wins 5 individual immunities on this season, people are going to be like, man, he's a pain in the ass. He keeps winning immunities. But you're not going to have your mind blown the way their minds were blown because Marianne was able to say, and I had the only secret left in this game. And it's true. It was the only secret left in this game. And good for her. She pulled it out at the right time. She didn't have to use it. There was, I will say this right now, for anybody who questioned it or anything like that, and obviously most people aren't questioning, but even if she lost to Mike, if Marianne would have played her idol for Lindsay, it would have been one of the stupidest moves in the history of anything. It would have been horrible. She does not beat Lindsay, I don't think. It seemed like the pecking order for this jury was Mike, Lindsay, Marianne, Jonathan, Romeo. Jonathan and Romeo were never going to win. And what happened was Mike did not perform the way he needed to at the final tribal and wasn't answering the way he needed to. And that's why Marianne ultimately won the game. If Lindsay sits at the final tribal council, Marianne's final tribal doesn't look as good. To me, what this reminded me of, and it reminded me of China, where we had Todd have a phenomenal final tribal council performance, but we had Amanda just cutting off her nose to spite her face the entire time. That is what this was. This was Mike not understanding. And for everybody who's annoyed by Jonathan, when he was saying, Mike, you need to own your game, and then Lindsay like turns around and kind of like gives whatever, that wasn't Jonathan being like, Mike, you're not doing this right. That was Jonathan saying, I'm giving you my vote. Would you convince these other guys to do it? I'm trying to tell you what you need to do. And Mike just picked up on it too late. He just couldn't figure it out. And Marianne could play off that perfectly. She was cool as a cucumber the entire time.
She really was. And especially for her, when she was saying during the reunion / after show, she was like, I wasn't getting questions at the beginning, which is typically a very bad thing. When people don't want to talk to you, that's not good. But every time she was asked a question, and this is what's so great about her. Like, I couldn't tell if she was being cute or purposely endearing or that's just how she was, but she would be like, well, here's how I'm going to answer that question for you. And people don't really talk like that. And I actually thought that like that showed the jury the respect that they very clearly wanted. And every answer she gave, she gave specific examples. I feel like I'm talking about interviewing right now, but I do want to give Mike credit because walking in, we were like, okay, is this going to be a coach situation? And kind of the first thing he was like, I said I would play with honor and integrity. And you see everyone be like, oh my God. And the fact that he did catch on and flip, I think is a huge testament to him because so many people would not do that. They would have dug their heels in the ground and he smartly adapted.
And when Jeff asks them the question in this reunion thing and says, hey, who here was going to vote for Mike and who was swayed by Marianne? And 4 people raised their hand. That is authentic. That isn't 4 months later, we're now hanging out. Who pissed me off that I don't talk to anymore? Who invited me to their wedding and didn't invite that person? Like, that is not going on in this moment. So when those 4 people raised their hand, I think it was Tori, Roxroy, Omer, and I think Drea. Drea was the other one. When they raised their hand, they really meant that. I firmly believe that Mike did enough by acknowledging that he was playing it the wrong way and doing that if Marianne doesn't pull out the idol the way she did. If Marianne plays, it was a kill shot. If Marianne plays the idol at Final 5, not for even Lindsay, just plays it for herself or something. If Mike doesn't play it for her and she plays it for herself, that doesn't have the impact because it didn't do anything. But to be able to pull that out at Final 3 and say, you all didn't know this, here's what happened. And that's why I knew to get rid of Omer because there was no way I wasn't making the Final 3 after that point. It's a brilliant move. And it explains everything. And she made her move at the exact time where there was no way to get her anymore because she was under the radar just long enough. It was absolutely perfect. And once that happened, Mike and Romeo both drew dead. Romeo drew dead just by being on the starting tribe he was on. But Mike drew dead in that moment, and there was nothing he was going to be able to do that was going to be able to surprise the jury. And now she just gained the respect of 4 people sitting back there, and there's nothing Mike could do.
Yeah. And I want to go back to what you were talking about earlier about Marianne waffling with saving Lindsay. That was one of those things where during tribal council, I was like, I want to watch that happen because I love an exciting tribal, but that would have been the completely wrong move. And Marianne even admitted that. It's always like good to admit your faults at Final Tribal. Where she was like, I couldn't allow myself to bring Lindsay one step further because that would have just been doing my own game such a disservice. And Lindsay going home 4-1, sure, maybe that wasn't exciting, but it was the right thing to do. And I think that really solidified Marianne winning the game.
Yeah, and not for nothing, it was the Jay Adams situation. I love you. I feel for you, but you're in my way. Yeah. Like, Lindsay was in her way. And that was the same thing with Mike. And not for nothing, like, Mike, here's what I'm going to say in this new era of Survivor and with the kinds of people that are going to be playing this game. 41 was different. I don't know if 41 had the same type of jury that 42 did. And not every jury is going to be the same, but I really think 42 was appreciative of you playing the game of Survivor. That's what they wanted. Did you play the game of Survivor, but do you know how you played it? And I think for anybody who goes out there, and 43 is obviously already out there, and we know all about that guy from Idaho because man was he in every shot of that
Him
preview.
And that beard, just
oh my god,
the gratuitous mud beard shot was.
I'm into it. I'm very into it.
Was what we needed.
But for 44, if you're listening to this and you're about to go out there and play, and you're like, I got to get the specialists in. Hey, you wouldn't be the first. People on 40 did that. I'm just saying. On finale night of 39, people were listening to us. But anyway, if this is what happened, you get to Final 3, no matter what you did in the game. If somebody gets medevaced and it's because you purposely got up in the middle of the night pretending you were going to the bathroom and you stomped on their kneecap, say what you did, because that is what juries are going to respect more often than not. It might not have worked in the earlier seasons, but this is a game that is within a game now. This is not what it was back in the day. You're not going to hurt people's feelings as much And if you do, they are going to be in the minority on that jury.
Mhm.
If, let's say, Roxroy comes in, and there was no way this was going to happen, but let's say Roxroy came in and he was just bitter as all hell, which, by the way, I do like that he was portrayed as a misogynist the whole season, and then he voted for Marianne to win. But anyway,
I couldn't tell if it was Roxroy or
Jonathan went Mike.
Yeah, and I'm like, I think Marianne also, for what it's worth, gave the best answer to his question about physicality, and I love that he's the one who asked that. But we'll talk about him.
But yeah, but so to sum all this up, the person, if people get mad at you, if Roxroy was so mad that you stabbed him in the back, they're the Tammy Leitner from season 4. They're in the minority. Nobody cares. There are 7 people over there, 8 people over there. Convince 5 of them. That's all you got to do. Don't worry about the one person you're going to piss off. And you know what? Maybe use somebody as a punching bag. That could be a good strategy, because then you build everybody else up. You don't need that person's vote. It doesn't matter. But you also need to know who you can use as the punching bag there. But I think what this proved, and Marianne was so good in this final tribal, because as soon as Mike was screwing up, she caught on that nobody was buying it. She read the body language, she read the mood in the room, and she said, all right, it's my turn to now just admit everything I did, and they're going to respect it. Good for her. She answered a lot of the questions second, but it worked. That's all you had to do. And that's what you should do moving forward. You're not going to win by being like Brian Heidick anymore. You're not going to win like by just lying, or Chris Doherty. You're not going to do that.
Yeah, that'll never happen.
It's not going to happen. So you just got to own it. You really do. And if you lose, you lose. But look at a guy like Romeo tonight. He went in there, he owned it. Romeo had me emotional as all hell, and I couldn't have cared less about Romeo all season. But awesome. Good for him. Like, I'm so happy for him, and I'm happy that he got what he got out of this, and that he won tonight, and that he got to get to Final Tribal. And who knows? He might have owned it enough that he could have actually gotten some votes. He was just so far behind. What could he really do?
Yeah, and this felt like a really, really good end for Romeo. I feel like the players in his position typically, like, people brush them to the side, and I obviously they brushed him to the side in terms of votes, but he was giving excellent answers. And he was giving honest answers. He was giving strong answers, emotional answers. And yeah, to your point, I think if he had any more agency in the game, then he would have been able to whip some votes. But him winning that final immunity challenge was, especially that it was like David versus Goliath there when it was him versus Jonathan. I really, really liked that he's the one who won that. And I don't think there's a single person who would have expected that to have happened. But to me, that felt like a really good bookend. Like, it almost, I don't want to say it made it less strategic, but it really felt like the playing field was leveled that way. We can analyze 500 times if Jonathan wins it, or if Lindsay wins it, or if Mike wins it. Nobody analyzed if Romeo won it. So then I was like, okay, the next 20 minutes, I can actually just watch this and totally enjoy it.
And was there not a part of you that said, holy shit, Phil's interesting, yet there's no way it's going to happen? Final 3 of Romeo, Mike, and Jonathan is actually about to happen right now. See, there's a couple things that went into Romeo's decision. I know he said that it was because there was no strategy from Marianne, and that's what he perceived. And he ultimately was wrong, but he was in a lose-lose no matter what.
Do you think he meant that?
No, here's what I think happened.
Yeah, I don't think he meant that.
I think Romeo picked Marianne because what is Romeo's life? What is his whole existence? His whole existence is building up, empowering women. He talked about it the whole season. And I get he was trying to play to the jury because very smartly, he was trying to get the 4 women's votes. If he gets the 4 women's votes, it's over. It doesn't matter. And Drea and Tori, he might be able to pull because he started on the tribe with them. So I see what he was doing, and I like that strategy. But I also don't think that it was a little manipulative at Final Tribal, but that is what he believes, and that is how he lives his life. And I think him taking Marianne, he almost felt like a little bit of a hypocrite if he says, I'm going to make her go play against one of the big guys, and I'm going to take a big guy to sit next to me because, oh, look at me, I took Jonathan to the end. I think his heart got in the way a little bit of this, and I think that's why he took Marianne. The one good thing that comes from this, though, it does not matter. The fire-making challenge is completely useless at this point. This is 3 times in 4 seasons that the person who was dragged to the end won the game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the fire-making challenge, I think, is just not, it's just, I'll say it's not impressive to a jury anymore, to win that challenge. It really doesn't hold what it used to. And yeah, I think, when I go back to rewatch the season, there is a quote that I'm not remembering directly, but Romeo pretty much says, it is my job to lift up women and to help women win this. And now it's my turn to win. So he's like, if I can't do it, then here's who I want. And for what it's worth, like if I was in Romeo's position, I would take the person who I would want to win. Like everyone's got their own agenda, you know?
Of course, and you hear Drea say that, and first of all, this jury thing was awesome decision. To have the juries actually give the confessionals. This was like back in the old days, like really
awesome.
Got my heart beat, and I was like, oh my god, is that who I think it is? And my dog is scratching at the door. Maybe I can get that out of here. But that was awesome. I was a huge fan of that. Like I was like, we're finally back. But we hear Drea say she wants to vote for a woman. She wants to vote for Marianne, but she doesn't want to just vote for Marianne because she wants to vote for Marianne. She wants Marianne to convince her. Marianne did good enough to convince her.
Yeah, she definitely did because, I mean, Drea didn't seem to love Marianne throughout the season, and they had like a really fascinating relationship. And I actually like appreciate how honest Drea was with that because I firmly believe that Drea would not have voted for her if she didn't believe that Marianne proved it. Drea doesn't seem like someone who would just vote for someone for the sake of voting for someone. So yeah. that was I think like that was good. And it was cool. It was very old school. And like that's such a dead 10 minutes usually of like, oh, here's what I think I'm gonna say, and here's how I'm gonna tell Mike and Romeo. Like that made that 10 minutes so much more exciting.
Agreed. I totally agree. So now that we're 16 minutes in, I do want to say that if you played in any of our games, we'll announce the winners by the end of this podcast. We have all the winners, and we do actually have a situation where Alexa and I need to come up with a tiebreaker. So there's some excitement.
That happened.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that. I just wanted to let everybody know who's listening that those are coming. So it was recently announced. I think it was Redmond. It was because it's Martin Holmes. I always get confused that his name is Martin Holmes because Gordon Holmes is the other guy. I have no idea. But he had said that a lot of the stuff that we saw in season 41 and 42 is here to stay.
Jeff said that too.
Jeff said that. This was said. This is all over the place. So here's my thing. What do you think about this after show? What do you like about it? What do you think can be improved? And how do you feel that we're not going back to reunions?
Yeah, I would love your take on this too. I don't mind it. I am very upset that all of these twists are here to stay, but I'm okay with it. I will miss the cut to everyone like gaining a little bit of weight and like looking really pretty. But the difference is this is raw and this is real, and it is always going to suck for the Deshaun's and the Xanders and the Romeos or the Mikes. It is always going to suck for them. But this is real. These people are reacting in real life rather than 6 to 12 months later with a completely different opinion. So I like it. I love like the live reveal. Obviously the surprise isn't going to be there anymore. I'm okay with it. I mean, I don't know if that means no more parties in LA anymore, but
no more parties in LA, baby. Please, baby. No more parties in LA. Sorry, it's Kanye West.
Now we don't have to go anymore.
You can't let you literally just no more parties in LA. Are we just play it? We're actually sponsored by Kanye. Thank you, Alexa. But no, so here's my thing. Here's my biggest takeaway from this. I don't like that this is positive for everybody except for the second and third place finishers, because ultimately the second and third place finishers should be having a damn good time in this finale and regarding their finale. And you come out of that and you're going to know if you won or lost. We've talked to enough losing finalists and winning finalists that no, it's over. Like they know what happened. Dom and Wendell, they knew who won their season once Laurel went up to put in her vote. But I don't like how awkward and uncomfortable this is for Romeo and Mike, because they're trying to process, what did I do wrong? They haven't even gotten out of the game yet. Everybody else has gotten out of the game. The jury is super excited. So I don't like that. That's one. The other thing that I really don't like, and it's mainly because if you think about it, if you're on a CBS television show, no matter what CBS television show it is, you're getting a little bit of star treatment, right? Whether you're young Sheldon himself or you're the brother of young Sheldon. I don't even know who the hell's on that show, but whatever. You know what I'm saying? They're missing their chance at the star treatment here. And I feel for these people now who are playing because we've experienced it. And we were lucky enough to go to a couple finales, and it is awesome. And my biggest thing is, while we might look at it as like, what does the reunion really do? And that's how CBS is looking at it. It's not making them any money. It's costing them a lot,
Mhm.
and it's not making them anything. For the families and for the people playing, that is the most exciting. For some of them, that might be the most
Yeah.
exciting thing they ever do in their entire lives. And it's being pulled away. And
The
we don't,
energy is so cool.
it's
I
so
will
different.
say.
And we don't have the pre-jurors, so they're done. They're off our screen. Like, I am always going to miss that. And I know that Lauren and Wendell and Bryce threw a party in LA this tonight, and good for them. I'm happy about that. One of these days, I'll probably go back out to one of them just because they're awesome and the parties in LA are fun. And I'm sure that season 42 cast was showing up to some of that. I'm sure there were people there. But to not just have that anymore, it sucks for the contestants and it sucks for the families, because a lot of these people might not even, they go to LA just for the casting. They sit down, they go into a room in a hotel or whatever it is, and that's it. And they don't go back to LA. Like, they go back to their lives wherever else it is. This is their chance. This is their moment. And that night, and Alexa and I have talked to people who finished were the first people out or won the game. Everybody is stoked on that night. Every single person. And we're taking that away.
Mhm.
Now, from the standpoint of CBS, makes total sense. It's a lot of money. This is cheaper. This doesn't make you have to bring everybody out to LA with their families, put them in hotels, do all this crazy stuff. It makes sense. You don't have to put on a live show, which is cheaper. I get it, but it stinks.
It is just a bummer, and I'm clearly saying this from a fan mindset and not a business mindset, but it is a bummer that, like, every single step to save money is being taken. Like, we're
At the
sticking
same
with
time.
26 days and we're canceling
Mhm,
reunions
mhm.
forever at the exact same time. Like, that kind of sucks.
Give me one, take the other. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to do 26 days, I want to see what Jonathan looks like now that he's beefed back up. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I want that. And I think that's where my frustration comes in. I know that this is a small thing, it's a minor thing, but if I got to play Survivor, man, think about the moment that Erica missed out on and Marianne missed out on. Think about the last time we saw it live, because then COVID hit. But when Tommy won, and his dad and mom and now
Mhm.
his wife, finally him and Nicole got married,
Yeah.
when they got to run up on stage and hug him and scream and do all that stuff, or he got to run off the stage, however it went down, that's not happening anymore. And yeah, they're all sitting together, whatever's going on, but to do that in front of a live audience in this thing that is all about you, it's freaking awesome. And it's not going to be matched. And I understand you want to save money. Survivor's not that expensive of a show. They're doing it in Fiji. Everything's already there. They have such good deals there. They've shortened the cast or shortened the days. They have 18 people. Like you said, if you're going to shorten it, give us this. If you're going to get rid of this, go back to 39 days. Like, we don't need to cut every corner at the same time. And I understand it's a business. At the end of the day, this is a business. I get it. I totally understand that. But sometimes you got to do some stuff for your cast and for your fans that's going to keep them coming back. The reunion's not the most watched thing in the world anyway, but to be able to go to those and the
Mhm.
idea that you might be able to go to one of those, it's awesome and it's different and it's something that we're going to miss out on. And a lot of young Survivor fans are never going to get to experience that. And that sucks.
Yeah. And there's also, like, unfortunately, after hearing all that out loud, challenges aren't going to change. There's going to be no
Nope.
challenge diversity probably ever again. And they're like staying in Fiji. I've never really had a problem with that. It's going to be no challenges. So the one thing that they can change is they're going to keep twisting stuff. And
Yeah.
that's going to get, it's already, to me, it's already gotten kind of stale. So it's like definitely just kind of a bummer to see. But to your point about, like, Tommy, like, running and hugging his family, we had actually pretty much everyone in this final three. Marianne talking about how her family, to some extent, has been fractured,
Mhm.
and they're going to come together by watching her participate in this challenge. Romeo, throughout the season, has talked about how he's been so scared to go back to
Mhm.
reality after being so open about himself. And Mike has talked about his kids so much this season. And, like, we're not going to see any of those come to fruition.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to see Mike's family. I want to get those cutaways. And like, I understand that that's not huge for everybody, but for the diehard Survivor fans, for the 5 million people who are going to sit down and watch that, We love that stuff. And like this tonight doesn't excite me because they just did it. Like they just did it. There's no time to think about it or, oh, we talked about it after. I want to know how these people feel about each other after. What is Jonathan and Mike's relationship like now? What is Jonathan and Lindsay's relationship like now?
Mhm.
How did you know what they didn't bring up tonight? How about the move by Drea and Marianne? That was so massive in the
Yeah.
moment, not so much from a move standpoint, but from like a societal standpoint, wasn't even brought up in this. And it was
No.
made such a big deal of for that whole
True.
week. And nothing came of it because we just saw it. It's not exciting. We don't get to hear what was it like back at home and all that. Trust me, Drea and Marianne got a great reaction from it. But I want to hear about that. I want to hear what it was
Yeah.
like to watch that with their families and all that. And again, I go back to this because like I know we have young fans in here and you know, that's the fun stuff. Cause I remember when we got to go to the 1 for season 37, I think it was Dave versus Goliath, right? That was the one you went to when we got, yeah.
Yeah.
When we were at the Dave versus Goliath one, we ran into Ben Feller, who's one of our patrons and, you know, has been around forever. And he had won, I think he won some contest to go. That's freaking awesome. He's there with his mom and his dad and like what, and like, that's something as a Survivor fan, that's the good stuff. Like watching it on TV is one thing. Most of us will never play, but to be able to be a part of it in some way, it's that thing they're dangling. We know people who have done seat fillers for that. They do the seat filler and they jump around when people have to go on stage or whatever. It's unlike anything else. And it's a once in a lifetime type experience that it's gone now. Like it's gone and it's not coming back. We're not getting live reunions anymore. And we're not going to get 39 days anymore. And I think that's a bummer.
Yeah, it definitely is a bummer. I'm looking at a couple other moments from this episode. I think the most unlikely statement that was said was there's good ships and bad ships, but there's no ships like friendships. I was floored that Jonathan said that.
I was dying.
That was incredible. Absolutely incredible.
I get married Sunday. Those are my vows. That's all I'm saying. I'm just going to walk up there and that's all I'm going to say.
Like, are you quoting Jonathan?
Yeah. And
you're like, absolutely.
Rachel's going to be sprinting across the golf course the opposite way. But I really thought it was funny. I'm going to be honest with you. Mike and Jonathan's relationship, we didn't get a lot of it this season. We got like how it started and stuff. More. But tonight, that was awesome. Like it was fun to see them together. It really was like to see them like buddy. And it was also kind of fun to see Marianne and Romeo as a little buddy. Like the underdogs when Romeo won, she went up to him, was so happy for him. Like this just, Alexa, was it just me or does this season feel like one of the most authentic seasons we've ever had?
This season feels very real and very authentic. And I know that not to get too much into exit press, but like everyone was like all hunky-dory whenever they got voted out. And it sounds like there was whatever amount of drama on Ponderosa, but I can't imagine there's a Ponderosa where there isn't any drama. But this group just they seem genuine. They seem like obviously they're super fans and obviously they're fans, but I don't think anyone ever like said this out loud. No one whispered at a tribal. There were no butt removed itself from a seat this tribal or this season. And yeah, I'm going to say
just this one tribal.
Just that one tribal. And I believe that's because who knows if this is actually true or not, but like the players know, and like maybe they don't even like it. So it just felt like they were very authentic. And this season so benefits from 41 being an editing mess. I do firmly believe that you switch these casts, people probably would have liked 41 more just because there would have been so much more time for editing. Mm-hmm. However, this is a really fun group. This group seemed just to gel really well. And they were all super different. They were super unique. And every cast is people who are unique, but this one in particular just really stuck out.
Well, and the other thing about this, I will say, however it was edited throughout, that's one thing. But from a getting to know the character standpoint, one of the best edited seasons, hands down, no questions asked in the history of the show. From getting to know the characters. There was not one person on this season that we didn't get to know in some way, shape, or form. Lindsay had 14 confessionals tonight. She was the first person voted out of the game.
Wow. And that's like Lindsay, who didn't get much in the first half to the first third. She was such a part of this finale. She was not what they did to Allison. Like she
Mhm.
was so much a part of this. And I really felt something when she was talking at Tribal about like not giving up, being a fighter. And of course she was going to go home. But I I believed in her,
Yeah.
and that's not always the case.
No, and they were I mean, they were duking it out. I mean, it was just exciting to see somebody claw the way she did, the way she tried to guilt Mike. Like, you can roll your eyes at that all you want. That's her only move at that point. Go
Yeah.
for it. Do what you have to do. You should be doing that. I was so in on Lindsay. Just for fun facts for anybody paying attention at home, Lindsay ended up on this season after all this with 14 more confessionals than Jonathan. I'm just throwing that out there.
Wow.
Isn't that unbelievable? So she had 14 more confessionals than Jonathan. I do want to talk about this fire making situation here with Jonathan versus Mike. Um, Good fire making challenge. Like, I
Mhm.
thought this was a quick one. It seemed like both of them knew what they were doing. It seemed like Jonathan tried to go like the more appropriate way, and Mike was just like, there it is, dump it on and let's see
Just
what happens.
yeah.
And it worked out for them. And I love their competitive nature. I love the reaction. I love how you could just feel that rawness for Jonathan. It was like, it's over. It is what it is. But the other thing that I really liked about this with Jonathan and Mike both, and you really see with Jonathan this episode, the looking around. Like,
Yeah.
Jonathan was taking this in so much. And I know, like, at the beginning, he was, getting ready. What am I going to be working with? Trying to visualize it, all that. But when he got voted out, walking up, looking around, when he's sitting on the jury bench, you notice after the votes are read, he's looking around at everything, like taking it in. That's the type of appreciation that this cast has for this show. And I think, like, just for this experience. And I think when it came to that fire making challenge, it was Mike versus Jonathan. At that point, you pretty much knew it was either Marianne or Mike who were going to win the game. If Jonathan beats Mike, Marianne has $1 million and she's sitting there being dragged to the end. But to watch these two guys go at it and have to go, like, they liked each other. And it wasn't like a Sarah Tony thing where it was like, oh my God, all these years, whatever. But just to, like, at the end be like, man, I love you. This was great. Awesome. Good for you. And just get out of there and still be appreciative. That's what is setting this season apart for me from a lot of recent seasons.
Yeah. That sense of appreciation is that to me is more relatable than like there being a super fan on the season, like that's just the awe. And again, this confession happens pretty much every season, but like they were getting poured on a couple tribal councils ago. And I think it was Lindsay. She was like, you like, we all sit here and we want to do this, and it's so much worse in reality than you actually think it could be. And it really felt like she was talking directly to everyone at home. And that was really cool.
It
Um,
did.
yeah.
And I agree with you. Like, super fans we've seen to death. Like, this season and tonight's episode, like, Lindsay, it was obvious she was going home, and that took up like a whole hour of the episode. I didn't love the reunion thing, but this was a season that makes you want to go on the show again. Season 41, I had sworn off ever playing Survivor. Like, it was just like, I'll never apply again. This is stupid. I don't want to do this. I don't like the twist, whatever. This was a season where you got to see what happens when you're not bitter about whatever hand you're dealt. We got to see Romeo just be like, I was dealt the wrong hand. You could feel his frustration and his annoyance at there was nothing more that he could do. And he did everything he possibly could. He knows he's going to get no votes at this final tribal, but like, guys, this is what I had, and that's why I did this and this and this and this, and just scrapping, but not being bitter about it and getting something out of it. That's what Survivor is supposed to be about. And that's what the early seasons were about. And then right after Heroes Villains, we saw that crazy shift of just like, there was bitterness obviously earlier than that, but we just saw a crazy shift where it was like, it always seemed like people were angry at each other nonstop.
Hmm.
And people were losing the appreciation for the fact that they were doing this. Like Zach says, whether he's the first person voted off or not, who cares? He got to play Survivor. Mike tonight, every time Jeff tried to be like, don't you hate that this happened to you? Mike was like, this is great. I don't need the money.
Yeah.
Marianne's got it. Good for her. Like, I love that I'm here. And I think that, this season for me, it's hard because it's coming on the heels of what I think is one of the worst seasons in the history of Survivor. But this is one of the better seasons of the show, all things considered. And is it ever going to break into a top 10? I don't know if any season ever will be able to break into a top 10 of Survivor for me, just because it's not really what Survivor was and what I love about Survivor. But
It's pretty darn
this was
close.
very good.
This was really good. I know one of my friends I was watching with, he was like, this is top 6 or 7. And I was like, but I don't know. That's not an appalling opinion. Like, this was a
No,
really, really, really fun season. It always helps to come off of a season that isn't necessarily well received. But Mike did hug Jeff, and really that has to put it in
that
this
was
10
massive.
for me.
That was massive.
That was amazing. I screamed and I forgot that no one would even care why that was the case. And like he's like, "Jeff, can I hug you?" And Jeff was like, "Sure." Oh, so good.
So good. So yeah, we got that. We actually had a lot of props
A lot of
tonight. So
props.
a lot of props. So what else did we have? So we can give some winners here so that people can get excited about stuff. Obviously Marianne was the winner. We had a lot of crying from pretty much everybody. Mike never got tears though, so that was a big one. No hidden immunity differences here. Nobody ended this season with 10 or more votes. So this is something I actually do want to
Yeah.
talk about before we move on. Jeff mentioned the small tribes and the small tribal councils. And we found out that the small tribal councils thing is something that's going to stay around. What do you think about that? That they're trying to keep it where you're looking at like a smaller number, 6, 5, even like 8 at most, but like that they're trying to purposely split this up this way.
I don't know. I think it probably smaller starting tribes allows for better character development, because if you have a small tribe, it's easy to be like, "Oh, okay, these are the 5 here, 5 here, 5 here." But it does lead to a lot of like kind of vote outs, and like like one person gets voted out with like one vote because they sacrificed their vote to
Mhm.
do this, that, and the other thing. I don't love that, but I I'm gonna always prefer an 18-person cast over a 20-person cast.
I agree with that. I actually kind of like the smaller tribals, and here's why. There are no really, really bad votes. Like, if you think about it, like when Michelle Schubert went home in Millennials vs. Gen X, no shit. Like, duh. Taylor,
Yeah, there's
duh.
not
Like, and
many
that's a
dull
very good
votes.
season, but
That's true.
those are there's no way they can, it's 10-1. I don't love the randomness all the time. I think there needs to be some sort of strategy, but like splitting it in 5-5 at final 10, if that's what they want to do as their double boot episode, I'm not mad about it. Like I don't love it, but I don't hate it. And I
It's not
do
the
kind
hill I
of
feel like
like,
dying on.
what was that?
It's not the hill I feel like dying on.
Exactly. And I do like that they're trying to take into account, like, why should you ever have an easy vote on Survivor, especially for only making you play for 26 days? And I agree with that. Why should you ever have an easy vote on Survivor? You shouldn't. Whether you're playing 26 or 39 days, this makes it harder and you can be in control of a game. But there's a lot of really good players who've been in control of games and lost even before they had all these twists and turns and things like that.
Mhm.
I'll never forgive what happened to Lydia and Sydney, but
Mhm.
trying to keep smaller tribal councils, that I can forgive.
And the thing is, 43 saw that. 43 onward, they know how to play it now. Or
Yeah.
they can start thinking of how to play it.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. So all this stuff is here to stay. And Jeff talked about this tonight. He was like, these advantages said beware on them. Do you think that moving forward there will be someone who sees that and goes, no thanks?
Yeah. I think it'll happen. I do. I think it's going to depend on the situation. Like, imagine if you're out there, you're in the final 7, final 8, whatever it is. You got a good alliance and you have an idol already and you pick up a beware advantage. Why the hell would you mess up your game? Like, why would you do that? Like, you at
Mhm.
some point you have to say, screw that. I don't need to worry about it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think like a complaint that a lot of people, myself included, have had is yeah, so throwing the merge challenge. Exactly.
Yeah.
That is totally a strategy now. Um, what was I going to say? Oh, I obviously we're never going to have any kind of back to basic season again. All this stuff is going to be here to stay, but I think like Survivor's way of trying to I guess like rectify that problem is by having these bad advantage or these disadvantages or these negative advantages. But I still feel like the game is in a place where doing the thing is always going to be encouraged, even if that is the wrong choice. But
Yeah.
maybe the attitude will change in a few seasons.
I think it's going to depend. I think how the players on season 43 and 44 play will dictate what happens in the rest of the 40s. I really do. I think that will be the deciding factor. If the players on 43 and 44 don't bite, it's the same reason why they got rid of the auction, because people stopped spending their money because they all waited for advantages. They broke the game. You're not going to do it anymore. If this breaks the game, that's it. They're not going to do it. They're going to just say, we're not doing it anymore and we don't want to worry about it.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna keep ripping through. Gets 5 or
Yeah.
less votes. So Mike had 5 or less. And who was the other one? Marianne had 5 or less. Romeo ended up with more. Jonathan ended up with more. Lindsay ended up with 5 or less. So she was in there. Individual immunity. Who had Romeo? Good for you. Mike also got an individual immunity win. Good for them. Blindfold, nothing changed here. Makes the jury. Jonathan and Lindsay both got you points for that. Hugs, Jeff. Obviously, Mike had the big one, and it was when he won the immunity challenge. So it wasn't later. It was during the immunity challenge. 3 or more sit-outs. That didn't happen tonight. 10 or more confessionals in an episode. Lindsay had that tonight, and Marianne had that tonight. So they both get in there with that. Blurred mouth. It was all people who'd already blurred them. We're going to get rid of the hour plus in a challenge next season, so that won't be back because that's clearly never coming back. A confessional in every episode. So Mike hit this, and Marianne hit this. Lindsay did not, Jonathan did not, Romeo did not. For anybody who's questioning Mike's, with the episode 6 and 7 thing, that was the merge episode. That was a 2-hour episode, even though Survivor counts as 2 episodes. We always say whatever happens that night, that counts as 1 episode. So Mike had I think it was the second half of that episode. He didn't have a confessional. Doesn't matter to us. We're counting that as 1 episode. So Mike had a confessional in every episode. 5 or more rewards. Romeo and Mike both ended up with 4. So poor guys couldn't quite get there. They didn't quite make it. Episode title. I don't know who had tonight's, but everybody had the episode title coming in tonight except for Jonathan. And I don't think it was Jonathan. Goes home with an unused advantage that didn't happen to anybody and mentions COVID did not happen. Lindsay didn't actually say it. Jeff said it to her. When we found out that Lindsay was supposed to be on 41, but tested positive for COVID and somehow got on 42.
That was wild.
Amazing.
I can't believe that. And then she was like that's, but honestly, like, I guess I shouldn't be shocked because that is like a very common thing that could happen. I'm so curious, like who took her spot?
Who was Lindsay? Yeah, exactly. I was trying to think about that with last season. I'm like, who the hell was
Lindsay? I saw this rumbling on Twitter, but maybe Tiffany? I think
maybe,
Tiffany,
but are we just assuming that? Like,
because she's blonde and like has,
and they're both like accent from the Northeast. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it was Tiffany, but
only because I thought I had read somewhere that Tiffany had been an alternate. I don't even know.
Yeah, everybody's saying Tiffany in the chat, so Tiffany confirmed it was her. But
so cool, but yeah, so cool. But I always love that kind of behind the scenes stuff. And I love how Jeff was like, "I'll see you on 43," and Lindsay was like, "Well, no."
Yeah, 42. See you then.
Love that.
So here's where we ended up with everything. So the winner of the power rankings game did end up being Alex Trias. He held on tonight, got the correct final 5, beat me by 1 point, and I'll never forgive him. So congratulations to Alex. You get a buff. Send us a message. We're going to have you just pick the buff, and we're going to send it to your address and all of that stuff. So we'll send you the link to the website. You go on there. You pick out which one you want, and we will make the purchase for you. Mm-hmm. So there you go. That's for you. For the fantasy game, so this was open just to our patrons. This did end up, this got really close at the end. So Annabelle Self went on a tear tonight because she had both Romeo and Mike, and that got her extra points. And she went into the final tribal council tied with Andy Vogel, who had, they both had 77.5 points. He had Marianne and Mike left. She had Mike and Romeo left. And then obviously Andy gets the 10 points. So Andy Vogel is your winner for this. As he tweeted out tonight, he has nothing but heartbreaking game show losses. At least he gets the Vintage Survivor package, which Vintage Survivor is going to send directly to Andy Vogel. Vintage Survivor has a bunch of really cool Survivor memorabilia. We actually got buffs from them for Survivor Panama. And so they're going to send Andy Vogel a package. Andy, we'll need your information. We know you listen.
I'll email you, Andy, but you may have already beaten us to it at this point.
Yeah, we know that this will make you happy. So congratulations to you. For the bootless game, Maurice Lang ended up winning it with 38 points, and I'm pretty sure this is not the first time Maurice has won this sort of thing. Got really lucky where he had Chanel getting 3rd place, or 11. Yeah, he had Chanel getting 3rd place, so got really lucky with that. And then whoever he had in 13th, so he had Lindsay getting 13th. So a lot of whatever moving around, but ended up winning it with 38 points. So Maurice, you will also get a buff, and we'll figure that out. But for the prop bet, for the first time since I think Will and I did it back in season 30, we're going to have a tiebreaker, and it might be a trivia game. So if you hear your name here, study up. Although Alexa and I are going to figure this out like mid to late June. So just keep in touch. Email us. We'll email you back. We'll figure it out. Alexa, what is the email address?
SurvivorSpecialist@gmail.com.
Perfect. So there was a tie for first place, 28 points each between Nintendoshi and Boring and Bland. So we're gonna have to do some sort of tiebreaker to determine who the winner is, and get you your buff during this offseason. But reach out to us, Claudette Proctor. I sent your buff. It's on its way. Should be there shortly. And I think those are all the fantasy games. I do want to say I beat Vaughn thanks to Alexa giving me 39 points from Jonathan Young. Thank you, Alexa. It doesn't get any better than that. Next year, whoever you hate the most, I will surely pick number 1 overall.
I like Jonathan. I hope, Jonathan, if you're listening, congratulations. You helped Phil win.
You did. And we finally dethroned Vaughn, who still ended up with 76.5 points, despite not having anybody who got him double points. Thankfully, I had that guy. I had both Jonathan and I had, oh no, you had 2. You had Roxroy and I don't even remember. We'll figure it out at another point. But Alexa finished last. So that was the big one there. That's all of those games. We will be back. We're going to try to get some interviews. We'll see how it goes. Obviously, I'm going through nothing but chaos for the next 2.5 weeks. So it's going to be a little bit, could be a little bit later, could just be a little bit harder for us to get this thing, but we're going to do the best thing, the best that we can.
Yeah, we'll probably be back. It sounds like 2nd to 3rd week of June. So we'll be floating around, but you probably won't hear too much from us in between now and then. But hopefully we're going to get to talk to a good chunk of this cast. We're really excited to be able to hear from them. But yeah, everyone, thank you so much. Honestly, thank you so much for dealing with us, because we have been an emotional roller coaster the past 2 seasons. And I've pretty much, before every single time we've gone live this season, Phil and I've been like, man, that was awesome. Like, this has been so much more fun. And it's way more fun for the 2 of us. And it's probably a lot more fun for all of you to be hearing us enjoying it. So thank you for sticking with us. And yeah, we're in for hopefully a pretty good summer.
I hope so. And I think we're in for a good next year. And become patrons, patreon.com/Survivor Specialist, because we just did a retrospective, which was talking about the season 43 cast, which was released. And we wanted to talk about that. Give everybody who's a patron a little bit of a preemptive strike on that. That was for $10 and $20 patrons. So become patrons. That's the best way to support us and make sure that we keep enjoying it, because, sometimes we have bad days and we're like, but there's money involved. Come on, Alexa, let's hang in there. No, it's not about the money. We do it because we enjoy it. And that's why we almost stopped doing it. But thank you all for being patrons, for whoever is. And for those of you who won games, look, it paid off. There you go. Well done. But yeah, is there anything else? Or are we just excited that 43 has big shoes to fill? It's gotta follow in some footsteps here, and it's gonna be tough.
The 43 preview is so cool. Seeing, I don't know anybody's names. The gratuitous Mudbeard, 10 out of 10, and the reveal of what's her name's prosthetic leg was so badass. Yeah, this is gonna be a really cool season. I sure hope. So yeah, good stuff ahead.
Yeah. And maybe if you're all lucky, I'll just put out like a tweet with my rankings of seasons, because we got 40 questions of that in here, but we don't need to do another podcast about that. So maybe I'll just update my rankings and I'll put 41 at the bottom just to piss a lot of people off. But anyway, thank you all for listening. As Alexa said, thanks for putting up with us. And we'll see you all